Good morning, dear students. Welcome to the science class. Kids, I know I have told you all happy vacation in our last live class, but by mistake I just forgot the date of your vacation. So here I am again with the new chapter today. I think till these 2 days we can have some part of our new chapter, that is chapter number 12, and till chapter number 11 you have already completed. Okay. So I may share the PDF also with you before vacation till chapter number 11. Today we will start chapter number 12, Reproduction in Plants. What we are going to learn in this chapter, as you can see from the name which suggests. So first we will learn about the introduction of the chapter. Then we will see the different modes of reproduction. And we are going through page number 133 and 134. So, before tell you what we are going to learn in this chapter, I would like to show you an introductory video related to the content of the chapter. Let us see the video now.
Introduction.
Hey Pooja Didi, you are here. I want your little help in my biology project. Can you help me please?
Yeah, sure, Raman. But before that, let me sow these seeds in the soil.
But why are you sowing these seeds?
It's simple, Aman. When seeds will germinate in the soil, a new plant will grow up.
That's interesting. Do all plants grow due to seeds?
No, Aman. There are various methods by which plants reproduce.
You mean to say that, like the animals, plants also reproduce?
Yes, Aman.
This has created an interest in me to learn about the reproduction in plants. Come children, let us learn about reproduction in plants. Objectives. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to define reproduction, recall the parts of a flower, explain asexual and sexual reproduction in plants, describe asexual modes of reproduction in plants such as vegetative propagation, budding, fragmentation, and spore formation. Define unisexual and bisexual flowers, understand pollination and its types, explain formation of a zygote, discuss seed dispersal in plants. What is reproduction? The process of producing young ones from their parents is called reproduction. Most plants have roots, stems, and leaves. These are called the vegetative parts of a plant. Flowers are the reproductive parts of a plant. But before studying the reproduction in plants, let's recall the parts of a flower. Parts of flower. Flowers are the beautiful parts of a plant. They are important in making seeds. Therefore, they are the reproductive parts of a plant. Let's learn about their parts. Stamen is the male part of a flower and pistil is the female part of the flower. The stamen has two parts, anther and filament. The anther is generally yellow in color and carries the pollen. It is held up by a thread-like part called a filament. The pistil has three parts, stigma, style, and ovary. The stigma is the sticky surface on the top of the pistil. It traps and holds the pollen. The style is the tube-like structure that holds up the stigma, and the ovary contains the ovules. Other important parts of the flower are the petals and sepals. Petal is the colored part of a flower. The sepals are the green petal-like parts at the base of the flower. Receptacle is the part of a flower stalk where the parts of the flower are attached. Self-assessment. Drag and drop the correct labels into their respective places. Types of reproduction. Reproduction in plants can be achieved through two ways, namely asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, only single parent is involved, whereas in sexual reproduction, both the parents are involved. Let's study about them in detail. Vegetative propagation. Different methods of asexual reproduction are vegetative propagation, budding, fragmentation, and spore formation. Let's discuss about them in detail one by one. When new plants are produced from the vegetative parts of a plant, the process is called vegetative propagation. It does not involve formation of seeds. Let us see how vegetative propagation works. Stem as a vegetative part of a plant. Have you ever seen buds at the nodes of the stem? These buds are called axillary buds. These buds do not produce flower, rather they give rise to new branches. In some plants like rose, small portions of the stem containing small nodes are cut from the plant. These cut portions are called cuttings. These cuttings, if planted and watered, can produce new rose plants. Similarly, stem cuttings of sugarcane can also be used for vegetative propagation of sugarcane. Do you know potato is the edible stem of a plant? It bears small scars on it called eyes. Well, these are the axillary buds. Each eye on a potato can give rise to new plants by forming shoot above and root below. Leaf as a vegetative part of a plant. In plants like Bryophyllum, leaf is the vegetative structure that helps in vegetative propagation of a plant. Many small buds arising at the margins of the leaves under suitable conditions form new plants. Budding. Children, have you heard about yeast? It is a single-celled organism which can be seen only under microscope. Let us see how they grow and multiply. Take a pinch of yeast powder and place it in a beaker with some water. Add some sugar and swirl to dissolve it. After an hour or so, put a drop of this liquid on a watch glass and observe under a microscope. You will observe new yeast cells formed. The small bulb-like projection you see coming out of the yeast cell is called the bud. These buds grow, mature, and form new yeast cells. Fragmentation. Have you ever noticed green-colored patches in a pond? These are algae. Algae reproduce asexually by fragmentation. Mature algae breaks up into smaller fragments, and these fragments grow into individuals. Fragmentation is the process of breaking of a mature organism into two or more fragments. Spore formation. What happens if we keep a piece of bread in warm conditions for a few days? Yes, we will notice blue-green fungus grown on it. Fungus grows from spores present in the air. Spores are light in weight, so they keep floating in the air. Under suitable conditions, they germinate and develop into new individuals. Plants such as moss and ferns also reproduce by means of spore formation. Self-assessment. Let's check what you have learned so far. Drag and drop the correct option into its respective place. Unisexual and bisexual flowers. Corn, papaya, and cucumber flowers have either the stamens or the pistil. These types of flowers are called unisexual flowers. On the other hand, hibiscus and mustard flowers contain both stamens and pistil. These types of flowers are called bisexual flowers. Anther of a flower contains pollen grains which produce male gametes. The female gamete is formed in an ovule. In sexual reproduction, both male and female gametes fuse together to form a zygote. Pollination. You must have seen honeybees sitting on a flower. Do you know insects carry away pollen grains on their bodies? They are the pollinating agents. The transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of a flower is called pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or the stigma of another flower on the same plant is called self-pollination. Whereas the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of the same type is known as cross-pollination. Fertilization. When male and female gametes are fused together, a new cell is produced which is called a zygote. This process is called fertilization. After fertilization, ovary changes into fruit and the ovules develop into seeds. The seed contains an embryo enclosed in a protective seed coat. Fruit may be either fleshy or hard. Seed dispersal. We know that plants cannot move from one place to another. Have you ever thought how same kinds of plants are grown at different places? This happens because seeds are dispersed to different places. Some get blown off with the wind to far-off places. Some seeds are carried away by water, while some get dispersed by insects or animals. When the seeds reach the soil, they germinate into a new plant. In fact, some seeds are also dispersed when the fruit bursts with sudden jerks. Seed dispersal is very important because it prevents competition between the plant and its own seedlings for sunlight, water, and minerals. It also enables the plants to explore their new habitats. Summary. Let us summarize what we have learned. The process of producing young ones from their parents is called reproduction. Flower is the reproductive part of a plant. In plants, there are two modes of reproduction, asexual and sexual. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent, whereas sexual reproduction involves two parents. There are different methods of asexual reproduction such as vegetative propagation, budding, fragmentation, and spore formation. In vegetative propagation, new plants are produced from the vegetative parts of a plant such as root, stem, and leaves. A unisexual flower has either the stamens or the pistil. A bisexual flower has both stamens and the pistil. The male gametes are found inside the pollen grains and the female gametes are found inside the ovule. The transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of a flower is called pollination. Pollination is of two types, self-pollination and cross-pollination. In self-pollination, the pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or to the stigma of another flower on the same plant. In cross-pollination, pollen grains are transferred from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of the same type. Male and female gametes is called fertilization. Fertilized egg is called zygote, which develops into an embryo. After fertilization, ovary changes into fruit and ovules develop into seeds. Seed dispersal is caused by wind, water, insects, and other animals.
So kids, I hope from this video you have understood the basic concept behind this chapter, reproduction in plants. Now let us move towards our text part, and this video will help you to understand all the concepts which we are going to face in this chapter. As you have seen about the all male and female reproductive parts of the flowers, how the different different plants reproduce. So let us learn about to produce its kind is a characteristic of all living organism. So this is called as reproduction. We have already learned in class 6 also, children. The production of new individuals from their parents is known as reproduction. So underline this definition in your textbook. The production of new individuals from their parents is known as reproduction. Children, but you know how these new individuals can be reproduced in plants? In plants, there are actually different modes of reproduction, which we are going to learn in this chapter. Let us see what is those modes of reproduction. Children, we have learnt about the different parts of a flowering plant in class 6. Let us try to recall those parts of a plant and we will see their functions also. And you know that most plants have roots, stems and leaves, and these are called as vegetative part of the plant. So we have learnt about the different parts of the plants, out of which roots, stems and leaves. These are called as the vegetative parts of a plant. After that, vegetative part, a certain period of growth. Most plants bear flowers. You may have seen the mango trees flowering in spring. It is also the flowers that give rise to juicy mango fruit that we enjoy in summer. So, children, we eat the fruits and we usually discard the seeds. So, actually, these seeds germinate and form new plants. So, this is what we call as germination. So, in the plants, flower is also having its main function. Flowers perform the function of reproduction in plants, and they are called as flowers have the reproductive parts also. So, do you want to know what are those reproductive parts that we have already seen in our class 6th? Here is the diagram of different parts of flower. Children, you remember these are the colored parts are called as petals. These green parts at the base are called as sepals. Later on we have another part. These are called as stamen, which contains anther and filament. And we also have the internal part pistil, which contains stigma, style, ovary and ovule. So these were the parts of the flower which we have already learned in our class 6. Out of this part that is the pistil, which contains stigma, style, ovary and ovule, this is called as female reproductive system of plants. And this part, that stamen, which contains anther and filament, it is called male reproductive system of plant. So through which the different parts in the female reproductive system, the formation of zygote take place. Okay, and this male reproductive part gives us the pores, which will transfer from one plant to another. So children, in this way, we have actually different ways by which plants can produce their offspring, and these ways are categorized into two types, asexual and sexual reproduction. So in asexual reproduction, plants can give rise to a new plants without seeds, whereas in sexual reproduction, new plants are obtained from the seeds. So this is what actually you need to understand, the two modes of reproduction that we have. Paley thought that the new plants always grow from the seeds, but she has never seen the plants like sugarcane, potato, rose, which do not require seeds to grow. So such kind of reproductions are called as asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, new plants are obtained without production of seeds. There are several methods of asexual reproduction, and the first one is vegetative propagation. It is a type of asexual reproduction, children, in which new plants are produced from the roots. All of you underline. It is a kind of asexual reproduction in which new plants are produced from the roots, stems, leaves and buds of the plant, and that is why we call them, the reproduction is through the vegetative part, that is why it is called as vegetative propagation. Now let us see what are vegetative propagation, how it done. As we have just now seen, reproduction is the production of new individuals from their parents. So the vegetative parts are roots, stem and leaves. So the reproductive parts of the plant are flowers, and there are two main types of reproduction, asexual and sexual. And in the asexual reproduction we have seen it happens without the help of seed, and sexual reproduction happens because of the seed. So in asexual reproduction, the first which we have seen is vegetative propagation. In this method, new plants are produced from the vegetative parts like the roots, stems or leaves. For example, if the stem cutting of a rose plant or money plant is planted in the soil, we can get a new plant. In the same way, potato has small buds called eyes. If a part of the potato with an eye is cut and planted in the soil, we can get a new plant. In the similar manner, if a part of ginger is planted in the soil, we can get a new plant. And you know what? Bryophyllum has buds in the leaf. What are these bryophyllum? These are also some kind of a plant which have the buds in the leaf. And if a part of the leaf with bud is planted in the soil, we can get a new plant. Another example is a cactus plant is planted in the soil, we can get a new plant. So let us see the pictures of these children. Rose stem, money plant, potato buds with eyes, ginger in a new plant with a new plant, this bryophyllum leaf and the cactus. They can grow without seeds. This is the example of vegetative propagation. We have another kind of asexual reproduction, that is budding. For example, yeast. Children, in this method, a small projection called bud is formed on the yeast cell. You can see here a small projection has come on this yeast cell. The bud grows and becomes a new yeast cell. Here is the production of new yeast cell. And that new yeast cell also grows and produces more yeast cell. So in this manner the number increases, and this process of production is called as budding. Next one is fragmentation, for example Spirogyra. Children, in this method the plant breaks up into two or more fragments, and each fragment can go further into a new plant. Here you can see these are the nucleus and spiral chloroplast septies here. They break up and then they form two new Spirogyra plants which will grow further. So this process of reproduction without seeds is called as fragmentation. The last process of asexual reproduction is spore formation. For example, in fungus and fern. In this method, the fungus produces spores by themselves and the spores germinate and produces new plant. So they do not need any other kind of plants or their stems or their roots or seeds. So this way spore formation takes place. So this is what all we have seen, the different modes of reproduction in asexual reproduction, children, that we will see through our text also. So we will revise it in the next video along with the textbook. So till that time I want you all to read page number from 133 to 136 to understand the different modes of transport in asexual reproduction, different modes of reproduction in asexual reproduction. Also, I want you to practice diagram of different parts of flower. I have seen in the video also. I have shown you, you can record from there, you can draw from there or somewhere from your old textbook of science. So my dear kids, till the time of next video, feel free to ask your queries if you have. Complete your task and do revisions in the vacations. Stay safe, stay home, enjoy online schooling. Thank you everyone.